So welcome back to the 42284 podcast, coming from the She Shed in downtown Sunfish, Kentucky.
Beautiful downtown
Sunfish, Kentucky. A hot, sweltery Sunfish, Kentucky today and the last few days.
Been a while since we recorded one.
Yep. We've been busy. Brandon's been doing hay. Lindsay and I have been getting a house ready to sell, and we have it sold and close in August. On it, so that's a big win.
Been a few trips. We went to the mountains there at the end of May.
Yeah, we've been to Missouri, tubing, took with some friends tubing. I don't think we've went anywhere. Have we went anywhere else? No, we haven't went anywhere else. My wife's in the green room. She can see us through the studio glass. So
Kyle's not with us. He's on a trip. They're on a family trip.
Kyle's up at Washington D.C. I figure he was going to,
try to shake hands with Biden, maybe.
Yeah, his fellow politician up there. So, maybe some other stuff. I was going to tell a big long lie. Brandon wouldn't let me. So, we have got Kayla here.
Yep.
Special guest.
Special
guest.
I was told that I always had a snide remark, so I came to prove it true.
This is Kyle's little sister.
She is here without Kyle knowing.
And Kyle's not going to have any idea, and we're going to drop the episode on him.
He's not going to be here to defend himself.
I always have been a surprise. That's what I've been told.
That is true. That's
So,
probably true.
it is.
I remember when you said you're 13 years younger than Kyle.
Yes, yeah.
So I remember when your mom was pregnant with you, and it was like the buzz of Sunfish that your mother was pregnant. I mean, it was like the princess what is Kate in England? I guess she would be the princess, right? Anyhow, it was like royalty was coming.
I have always lived that way as a princess, so I believe
there you
that.
go, yeah. So,
I think the story goes that when they found out Maxine was pregnant, so I don't know what was going on, but anyway, I think Kyle made the remark to Gary one time, I don't know why you're strutting around like a rooster. It's took you 13 years.
I remember that. Yeah. I remember hearing him say that to him. So
Mom said she went to see Dr. Buckles. Don't know if y'all are familiar with
yeah.
Dr. Buckles, and thought she had the stomach virus, and it was me, turns out. I've been plaguing people ever since.
So I told you a while ago when we were talking, when you look a lot like your dad.
Yes.
I mean, Kyle looks nothing like your dad.
Right.
He even told us a few weeks ago. He said he got all the Ashley DNA, and then he
sure
pulled his hat
did.
off and
he
showed
did.
us.
Right.
Yeah, and but you look a lot like Gary.
Yeah.
And Gary, he farmed here in Sunfish for several years. Ran a trucking company, Long Acres Farms. But he was a lot of fun. You were talking about your husband and the thunder earlier.
Yes.
And your mother. Mm-hmm. Your mother used to be afraid of storms.
She don't like them, that's for sure.
So I always heard that it was because Gary was prone to getting struck by lightning.
Oh, I don't know that one.
So, I've not heard this story.
I don't know.
Now, she had lightning run in on a phone on her one time.
Oh, yes. She was working at the Big Spring Lumber Company. Kyle told me this, actually. And lightning ran in on the phone, and apparently it was very scary. And she actually won't answer her cell phone or house phone. She'll answer it, but she won't talk for an extended amount of time if it is storming.
So when I was, 10 or 12 or something like that, the store was still open. And it was coming just a hell-bent thunderstorm and hot summertime, and they had the front door propped open. And it got to popping and crackling, and your dad was standing in the door looking outside. And somebody said, "Gary, it's lightning out there." He said, Gary's, it'll be okay. And lightning hit him and knocked him down in the floor.
Nuh-uh. I have never heard that.
I've never heard that story.
And so then when we were in high school, me and Kyle and Josh Kinser, Kyle had cows down here behind where Gene lived. And I don't remember, some of them got out or something. Or no, I'm sorry, it was across the road. And so some got out, and they had ran through the fence out here on 187. Kyle, he was notorious for just having one hot strand of barbed wire. And so I dropped Josh and Kyle off to fix the fence, and I was going to go up and plug it back in when they got done. And lightning hit, and it ran down that fence and hit and got Kyle again. Or got Kyle, the best I remember, or Josh, or maybe both of them. But
I can remember because they accused you of plugging the fence up.
yeah, I hadn't even made it up the road yet. I turned around in your all's driveway because I knew it hit close. I thought I better go get them, so I just turned back around. And so when we got back to your mom's house, she tore Kyle up over being out in that in that storm.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, she doesn't like to be out if a storm's coming. She don't want us to be out, and so yeah, he was over there doing something, and it thundered, and she's like, "Oh, you gotta go."
Yeah, when you said that,
you gotta go.
When you said that, I remember thinking, I forgot Maxine doesn't like storms.
No, she don't like them. That's for sure.
So what was it like growing up, being the baby sister of Kyle White?
I used to would have said I had a pretty normal childhood, and then I would tell people stories, and they would always give me this look like, "What's wrong with you?" And that's when I learned I lived a very unique life.
Yeah.
He makes you tough, that's for sure. I think I can handle just about anything. And I've said that. I'm like, if I could live with him, then I think I could live through 90% of it. COVID, I was raised with Kyle. I mean, it's all right. He is 13 years older than me. So I have been told from the very first time he found out I was a girl, he wanted a boy and was disappointed. So coming in strong, nothing like flying in under some disappointment. But he had to babysit me because Mom would go out and do something. And my mom, she collects antiques, and Kyle got tired of me, and so he would put me in a churn so he did not have to watch me. And then he'd put on like a UK game, and Mom would come in, and he's laying on the floor, laying on the couch watching the UK game, and she's like, "Where's Kayla?" And he's like, "She got annoying. She's back there in the churn." And like, there I was. So like the, like the 90s version of a playpen was a churn.
A churn. And that was normal to you, right?
I guess I thought that's what everybody was doing.
Never knew anything.
I didn't know any different,
So did he pull pranks on you or stuff like that? Or
Oh gosh. How long y'all got all day? You got a few hours.
We can get this down to a couple shows if needed. So.
Right. Y'all got some filler time.
Yeah.
Good. To this day, I cannot be around a mouse, dead or alive, or a video or a picture. I am truly traumatized. I should probably see somebody. Kyle. And I just want y'all to remember, he's so much older than me. So, like, this isn't like, oh, this is my little brother or little sister a year younger. I mean, like, I'm 4, he's 17.
Yeah.
That's your age difference.
Right.
If my mom would catch one, she would have him empty the trap, to which he would throw them at me. He would, like, take them off the trap and throw them, or throw the trap.
Right.
The worst one, I was laying on the couch, and he laid it down my forehead to where the legs hit my eyebrows and the tail went down the bridge of my nose.
Is that one of those where you scream and nothing comes out for a minute?
It was like, most of the time it was, "Mom!"
Yeah.
And she'd be like, "What are you doing to her?" And, because you just knew.
So did you ever get anything back on him?
No, I haven't. No.
Not until today.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
Well, the tell all.
Kyle gets it, honestly. I mean, he has grown up with people that have messed with people all the time.
Gary and my dad.
Yeah, and so, I mean, all of us, I mean, it has been just a revolving door of pranks with people.
Right. So, going back, I get older, I move out, I go to my own house, putting up groceries one day, and a mouse is in my pantry, and I am frozen, and I sit on my countertop, and at this time I have a 2-year-old little boy up there on my countertop, and he's like, "What's wrong, Mom?" And I'm like,
"Did you have
there's
him get
a mouse in the pantry."
Did you have the
it was
2-year-old
alive.
get it?
No. And I call my mom crying, "There's a mouse in the pantry. There's, because, so thanks to Kyle, I can't even function like an adult.
So I have a 17-year-old stepdaughter, and I like to pull pranks. I mean, there are a lot of pranks around our house. And so one of my favorite things is to put the snap pops that you throw and they, pop on the ground under the toilet lid. And so I'll do it to her. I'll do it to all the kids, but I would do it to her, and you would see her go in the bathroom, and then you would hear her sit down and pop out, and we would giggle and stuff. And so last year, we're down at the lake one weekend, and she comes in and she throws something at me, and it hits beside me, and it was like a dynamite stick going off. Bow! And I said, "What was that?" I mean, it was just deafening. Mm-hmm. She's like, "A snap pop." I said, "Snap pops aren't that loud." And she holds them up, and they're adult snap pops. And I said, "Where'd you get those at?" She saw them in a store somewhere and got them. And so I kind of forgot about them. 2 nights later, I go to bed, and this is probably more information you want to know, but I stripped down to my underwear, and I go into our master bath at the lake with the light off.
Yeah.
And sit down on the toilet.
I think I see where this is heading.
Right.
And the world lights up. I mean, it was like a flash of light lit the whole room up. And I mean, I was like, "Whoa, what was that?" The flash scared me. And then I heard it. And I'm like, and it was just deafening. The toilet is in just a room by itself on this lake house. And then I felt it.
Oh.
And it flash burnt everything that was in the center of the toilet lid. I mean, bad. And I was mad.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And so I was so mad that I didn't even say anything to anybody. I just went to bed. And I got up the next morning, they were giggling about it. And so Lindsay, come to find out, my wife, who's supposed to love me, had set her phone up and videotaped the whole thing.
Oh.
No, we can't have it. Because it is not PG-13 or R-rated. Because like I said, I was in the bathroom. So, I mean, it was an experience. But we like to play pranks, right?
Right.
And now that I'm not in pain from a flash
Yeah.
burn on parts that shouldn't be flash burned, I see the humor in it, right? Yeah. But I told Elena, I said, "Hey, I love pranks. I think they're funny, but you have to know what you're doing. You'll hurt somebody."
Right. Oh, yeah, no. I mean, I'm a great sport.
Yeah.
I didn't used to be. I mean,
I can relate to that one on Dad getting me. I had come up with some firecrackers one time, and I'd catch Dad working on something. I'd light a firecracker and throw it under. Bow, Dad goes to Tennessee and gets some truck parts, and he stops and gets some of those big plastic M80s. I mean, that blow apart and shrapnel,
Right.
And I'm standing on the bumper of my ton truck, leaned over in it, putting plugs and plug wires. And all of a sudden, kaboom! And I mean, I'm coming out of there, bumping my head on the hood, about to tear the hood off, Mm-hmm. And of course, I got mad, and I come out there and I'm mad, and he sees I'm mad, and he said, "Funny, ain't it?" All he had to say.
Yeah.
I knew, it was payback at that point. I
Right.
knew, But yeah, funny, ain't it?
So, there used to be a guy that'd work over at their shop named Larry Smith. I'm going to name drop him.
We're going to have to get him up here, too.
Do you know Larry Smith?
I don't guess I do.
Do you know Steven Smith?
Yes.
So, Steven's dad.
Leslie Cena.
Oh, I've heard the name. Yeah. Okay.
So
I'm with you.
Larry is Steven's dad, and he is terrified of snakes, isn't he?
Oh.
I mean, like you say with you, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to get him close to one. And how many times did you throw that rubber snake on him over there? I mean, just a black piece of hose or anything.
Anything.
And he would
Tear him to death.
He had a bulldozer in the shop working on it,
Mm-hmm.
and I would get home from school, and I would hide a fake snake in that dozer somewhere and wait for him to get there. And he would come up afternoon when they got done logging, and he would get plumb down in the belly pan of that dozer, and directly you'd hear him go to hollering and tools go, and he'd be standing out on the floor.
Yeah. Brooks has a rubber mouse, and he's found out it's funny to hide that thing in the house. And I find it all over the place, and it gets me every time because I'm that scared of them.
Yeah.
So one time he stuck it under our bed, just the tail sticking out. And I walk by, and I run as hard as I can run. And he laughs, and I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
A little Kyle.
It's starting.
Yeah, a little Kyle.
That's that Gary coming out
Yeah.
of him.
Oh, yeah.
Did Kyle get him the mouse? That's what I want to know.
He didn't, but he probably will do something along these lines to
We're
continue the
giving him-
torture, giving him ideas probably.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're actually probably, you said you're 29.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, you're 14 years younger than I am, and living in Sunfish. How you lived in Sunfish till you moved
I did
out
until
of
I
the
was
house,
yeah
right?
until I was 21. I was kind of, I guess, second generation Sunfish.
Right. Yeah.
I lived here till I was 21, and then I've lived in Bee Spring most of my adult life.
we won't hold that against you.
But you know, I still tell people I'm from God's country.
Yeah.
And
She lives on the other side of Bear Creek.
right, yeah. But no, I grew up down here. Everybody most of the time, you know, knows where Mom's at. That's where I grew up. We moved out of where Kyle lives when I was 5, 6, I guess, maybe a little older, and then moved over here.
Do you remember the trucks and all that stuff down there?
No.
So when we were growing up, you know, your dad had the trucking company, and the store was open, and the post office was open, and it was a different place, right?
Right.
I mean, it was a thriving
it's
community.
dead now
Yeah,
compared
now
to
it's. I mean, a lot of times people don't even know their neighbors here, and it was different when we grew up.
Oh, yeah.
It was a fun place, but you're right. It's God's country, right? Everybody's laid back
God's
here.
country. That's what you all had, Mr. Durbin, and I think that he's maybe one of the best people to ever be around in life, Mr. Ray Durbin.
Oh
And
yeah.
he
he's
worked with
great.
me 2 years in my classroom,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that's what we'd say. You know, because we worked in South Edmondson, which is in Cleveland. You know, we'd say, "Oh, we're from God's country. We're from Sunfish." You know.
Yeah. So you're a teacher.
Yes, I
Okay.
teach in Grayson County currently, but
What school?
Lawler.
Lawler. What grade do you teach?
I just got moved to first grade.
That's a fun age.
That was good, yeah.
Yeah, they're learning to color in the lines and that type of stuff in the
Not
first
in my
grade.
room. You already gotta know that stuff. I mean, come on now. We're reading.
So
I remember learning to read.
You did? You learned to read in first grade?
Yeah, learning
Yeah.
to read. I had Miss Tina Tunks.
Yes, she's a great lady.
I think she retired 4 or 5 years ago. I remember seeing something where she had retired on Facebook or something.
Yep, she was good.
And I remember thinking, that was my first grade teacher.
So when Kyle was over at the station and Kayla would be over there, which I'll give the people that just listen that don't know the people we're talking about. So Maxine is very fair complected. Kyle is
Yeah.
very fair complected.
Oh, I was waiting for this.
Gary was very dark complected, but a lot
Right.
of people didn't know Gary that were around the station
Because
over there.
Gary, your dad passed away.
It was 96.
96.
I'm correct, because I was 2.
So here Kayla is with 2 fair complected people, and one of Kyle's favorite things was to tell people that you were
a
adopted.
Mexican. Yeah, I'm a Mexican. I'm a foreign exchange student from Mexico. So you can't see me, but I have dark eyes, dark hair, pretty tan. Kyle, if you've not seen him, he's got blue eyes, pretty fair complected. What hair he has is black or brown. But you put us together.
Notice she said what hair he has.
Right.
Yes.
Put us together, and you would never guess that we're brother and sister. And from the time I was probably old enough to talk, he has told me that I was adopted from Mexico. And like, I look like our dad.
Yeah.
You know, like, that doesn't even make any sense. And so I was adopted from Mexico, or I was a foreign exchange student, and that his real sister was living with a family in Mexico, and it would be time for me to go back soon. And he didn't just only tell me this, he told other people this. So we were at the station one day, and I'm like 12 or 13. And Kyle is out there by the gas pumps, and he's talking to somebody, and he keeps like pointing in my direction. And I remember I was sitting there was an old TV in the corner, and I'm watching the TV, but out of the corner of my eye, I keep looking at Kyle like, great, what's coming? So this man comes in, and he kind of looks back at Kyle, and Kyle's like, go ahead, it's fine. And he gets close to my face, 6 inches at the most. And he's like, hello, how are you today? And I said, fine. And he said, oh. And he looks at Kyle like, oh, wow. And Kyle's like, we've been working on it. And I just kind of sit there, because then I'm like, oh, he's told this guy I don't speak English. That's what's happening. And so the guy's like, are things good? And I'm like, yeah. And he looks at Kyle, and he's like, she does speak really well. And
She's
Kyle's
picking
like,
it up.
yeah, and Kyle's like, we work on it a lot, and she's doing really well. And And then he's like, if you really want to, if she really wants to show off, she can maybe count. She can count really high. Do you want to speak to him in Spanish? Do you want to? And I'm like, no, I don't. That's my whole life. People to this day greet me in Spanish. They'll say, hola, how are you? And I'm like, that's good.
Yeah.
25-year joke. Yeah. Still running strong.
Well, when I was a kid, I always kind of thought Gary had, some like American Indian or something. Because he was very dark complected and had the jet black hair, and he.
I mean, who doesn't fit in? Look at our family and like, who's the oddball? Kyle. Like I look just like my dad. Yeah. Who wouldn't fit into this picture? Kyle. But I would cry. I'd be like, that's not true. Don't. I took it so personally, Yeah. I mean, I remember one time I was little enough that he picked me up and he sat me on the table. And he's telling me about how my family in Mexico misses me, and like it would be about time to go back. And I stopped talking to him. I like stopped answering. And he's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Are you mad? What's wrong? I mean, like, that's how little I am. He had to pick me up and sit me on the table. And my family in Mexico was missing me. So
you have to admit that's funny. I mean, looking back now,
right?
That's funny.
It is funny, yeah. And so like, I'll go somewhere and they'll be like, "Hola, how are you?" And I'm like, and one guy, he's like, "There's the little Mexican girl." And I'm like, "There I am, yeah."
You just stuck around.
Yeah, here I am. Yeah. So, I was adopted. If my family in Mexico is listening, I'll come back anytime now.
As long as they live in a coastal area, right?
Yeah.
Got money.
Looking for some vacation.
Yeah, they got a little money. So.
Yeah.
I mean, that's funny.
Yeah, that was that was pretty common.
So Kyle, one of his favorite things to do back when we were, running around in high school and stuff, is get in your car or your truck, and he would sit in the middle, and you'd start into a curve. And he'd hold the steering wheel.
No.
He'd get his leg against it, or he'd hold it. Or I have seen him even get his foot on the gas pedal on a few of them.
Yeah, he's done that to me several times. Just hold it to the floor.
Right.
But and so what you do is, you go to turn back when you straighten up, and you're like, because you don't see his knee up against it, and then he lets go and you jerk.
Right.
And I'll tell him, Mr. Kyle, you're gonna kill us. He'd just laugh. He'd laugh.
But that goes back to the Gary swerving all over the road story that Dad told. I mean, there you go,
Kyle played a game called Car Wreck. Not familiar if anybody ever helped.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
This kid's game. I thought it was maybe a game you play with your family. Car Wreck. Mm-hmm. Hey, do you want to go down to B&B Market? Yeah. And then he'd drive, and he'd be like, "Oh, car wreck!" And he'd pull the wheel as hard as he could, almost to the ditch. And then he'd say, "Car wreck!" And he'd pull it out. And like, here we are in the green truck, going to B&B Market, and we're playing Car Wreck. Well, Car Wreck got a little out of control, and he ditched us. And he couldn't get us out. And I'm crying hysterically. And he somehow gets a hold of Mom. I don't know if he had a phone or what, but he calls her, and he's like, "This kid won't stop crying. Come get her. I got to get my truck out of the ditch." And Mom's like, "Why are you in the ditch?" And he's like, because we played Car Wreck, which was, we're going to have a wreck. So brace yourself.
He used to love to bump you going down the road.
Rubbin's racing.
He'd catch you not looking.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be running 55 down the road and not realize anybody's around. He'd run behind you and bow, hit you.
Yeah.
He got you, didn't he?
He got me on 259. You know where Junior Food's at?
Yes.
I had pulled out Junior Food. I had just got my truck in high gear, and I was just taking my time. I was Sunday driving, so I wasn't in. And about the time I look in the mirror, here comes the green Ford.
Yes.
And it is coming on strong.
People wonder why it frowns. This is why.
Yeah, the front bumper.
Yeah.
It does kind of look like it's
got a frown. It's been beat to death.
But, yeah, bow. Which he done it to a local guy here who was packing hay one roll at a time with his tractor, and he got to pushing against the roll of hay, and the guy thought that something was the matter with his tractor because he couldn't see Kyle behind him.
So him and I were going down 187, and we're going past the church, and he's behind me, and I don't remember where we were going, but he's following, and he is bumping me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in that ton Dodge, and he's in that old Green Bay truck, And I mean, that Dodge was low gear, didn't run 85 mile an hour wide open. And so I had it pinned. And when I come around the curves there, past Dale Logston's,
Yep.
Preacher Durbin lived up on the hill on the right.
Yes.
Preacher pulled out in front of me. And
Oh,
that
no.
little was a Ford,
And you know he wasn't in a
Oh,
hurry.
no.
Ford Tempo, I think it was, little maroon Ford Tempo. He just, because it's, he's pulling out, which they cut that bank down now. But
You can't hardly see there anyway.
yeah, used to when you pulled out of his driveway, you just took your life in your hands and just went. And he went, and I come around that curve running 85.
Kyle
and
right
I
on you.
locked that truck up, and I mean, Kyle ate the back of that car. I mean, ate it. So,
Yeah.
But, my kids, when we lived down here, which we moved to Western Kentucky in 2017, but my kids knew that if Kyle got behind you, he was going to bump you. Or,
Right.
He was
Yeah.
something. And so we had moved, and we were back down here doing something. And we were coming out of Brownsville. Kyle's right behind us, and I was in that Duramax, and it had a switch you could turn up, and it would just roll the black smoke out of it. And so when we turned on 187, I reached down and turned that switch up, and I rolled the coal, as the kids say, up through there. And then when we got in front of the church, Kyle was behind us again, and I rolled the coal, and I saw him turn his headlights on. And so we stopped, talked to him. He said, "Good gosh." He said, "I had my windows down." He said, "I think you gave me black lung." I said, "Serves you right."
Which he probably ain't told neither one of y'all the story, but the other day it reminded me of it because he told Knox, he said, "Now just don't be out there checking the mail when Bub's coming by." So I was coming in one evening, and I don't remember what I had to do that evening. I come in from work in a hurry, and I was in my diesel pickup. I'm coming probably a little faster than I should have been, and I glanced down at my phone just right there in that stretch before you get to Kyle's house, and I look up about the time I'm even with Kyle's driveway, and Kyle is at the mailbox, and he is sucked plumb against the because I didn't get over it because I glanced down at my phone. He's like sucked plumb. How I missed him with the mirror, I don't know. Scared me. Well, I just seen somebody at the mailbox. I didn't realize it was Kyle, and I was scared it was Heather.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
I texted.
If it had been Kyle, you'd been like,
I text. Yeah, I might have swerved a little closer.
you want to just kick him with the mirror.
Right. And so I text Heather, and I said, if that was you at the mailbox or one of the kids earlier, I am sorry. I had glanced down at my phone, and she's like, "That's Kyle, thanks. I appreciate you thinking it was me, and it's Kyle, I said, well, I didn't see really who it was. I just know there was somebody there. But Kyle said he felt the wind off of it for sure.
So, 10 years ago, maybe, the couch incident down there?
Yeah.
Heather and Kyle got a new couch.
I got the old one, so.
No, you didn't get this
No,
old
you
Not
one.
didn't
that,
get the old
I didn't get the old one.
You didn't get this old one.
I did get a old one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they
I think this was before, because I think I got the old recliner that go around.
You
But this
did,
was the one
yeah.
before this.
Yeah, right, probably.
So I was going to buy a Jeep, and I knew the guy who had it, and he said, "Just take it and drive it for a few days and see if you like it." I said, "Okay." So I went and got Brandon. We're out riding around. It's got the top off of it. And Kyle and Heather have got a new couch, and they had put the old one in the front yard.
Yeah.
And it'd sit there for a day or two, right?
Yeah, it was kind of out in the barn lot, the gravel lot, wasn't it?
No, it was in the
Was
right
it in
at
the
the front
yard?
part.
Okay,
porch,
all
yeah.
right.
And we're coming up the road in that Jeep, and I don't know what possessed us to do it.
Seemed like a good idea.
Anyhow, we went off the road through the yard and jumped the couch. And then jumped the railroad tie, or there was some kind of cross ties or railroad
Yes.
ties going into the gravel.
That was
And-
before the fence. That's probably why Heather had Kyle put the fence up. I'd say.
Like,
But that old couch was sitting, it had the back up on it, and we left, it was all flat.
oh my gosh. Poor Heather.
Yeah, I don't know that she knew what she was getting into
No.
moving over here.
Probably not.
No.
So-
there was the kidnapping incident.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that. Out at 2:00 in the morning. Where's Kyle? It's like a fun game of Where's Waldo?
Yeah. Kyle walks out in his bare feet, cold weather, I
Cold.
think.
I think
Best
it's
I
all a
remember.
year,
Yeah.
winter or something.
To talk to some guys and makes the mistake of getting in the truck with him, and
At
they
2
just
o'clock in the
and
morning,
they just
right?
leave. They just leave with him.
Yeah.
And this was Kyle and Heather were pretty. I mean, she hadn't been moved over here all that long. I don't
No.
think.
No.
Pretty freshly married.
Yeah, I mean, probably maybe
And
what, 6 months?
She
I
thinks
guess?
somebody has kidnapped Kyle.
Kyle's mom. and Kyle's been kidnapped. Mom is frantic. I mean, Kyle's like 25 years old or something like that, you know. But somebody took baby, so we got to go find him.
Is
And
Kyle the favorite, or are you the favorite?
I want to say this loud and clear for the audience, for the world. Kyle is 100% the favorite. And I know you're listening to this, Mom, because you listen to all of it. Don't deny it. So, yeah, Kyl's been kidnapped, and here me and Mom go to track him down 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm maybe 10 years old or something, and brother's MIA.
Did you all know what happened?
No, she literally
'cause
said, like...
Heather didn't have a clue who had pulled in the
No,
driveway.
she said somebody came and knocked on the door, or, honked the horn.
Blew the horn.
Blew-
And Kyle went out
And Kyle went
barefooted.
out to see what was going on, and, like, never comes back, you know? So she don't even know who's been in the driveway or who...
Which we know the guys who
Right.
Initiated
it
kidnapping.
well.
You know.
And that's just how things are around here. That somebody may stop at 2 o'clock in the morning and blow the horn.
Right.
Just see what you're into.
Yeah, and I can only imagine, Kyle's out there and they say, "Oh, is your feet cold? Get in." And when he gets
then
in,
they just leave.
then-
Well, the story I got
Right.
was they were like in just a regular cab truck, and the 2 guys are tall, big tall guys. And so when they told him to get in and talk to him for a minute, the one stepped out of the passenger side. Kyle jumps in, gets in the middle, and then the guy gets back in. They just leave.
Yeah.
That's what I was told.
Yeah, so, that doesn't happen to everybody, I learned.
Yeah.
You know, they'd be like, your brother didn't get kidnapped when you were 10? Oh.
How did you all end up finding him?
Because Maxine White was on the case.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, no, I
I'd
don't know.
heard,
I
like,
don't
the
know how. I
sheriff
think he
got
just...
involved. And
I think they
BJ
ended up
was
just
BJ
bringing him.
I think they just brought him back.
Or maybe somebody called somebody and said, "Hey, we know
Hey.
you're out. Have you got Kyle or something?"
It was not like, people were...
Yeah.
Which
It wasn't a
Kyle's in the
search
truck
party.
just riding around, right? I mean, he's just.
I guess.
He's
I
just
don't-
there.
Yeah.
I guess. I
He
don't
is
really
not
know.
excited at all. He's just.
I'm
riding
sure
around.
he wasn't upset.
Yeah.
Mom was upset. Heather is upset, and I'm like upset because everybody's
You're-
upset. I don't even know what's going on really.
You were like, finally, some relief. Keep him.
Right.
I mean, and here's the pranks just go on and on and on. Back when they had the station and they had the rollback and the wrecker.
Oh yeah.
Oh my Lord! Of course,
I got
somebody
a truck moved. I didn't find it for 2 days.
Well, somebody stole Kyle's truck, and then Kyle took the drive. I don't remember which one happened first, so I'm not going to say who initiated. But at some point, Kyle's truck got stolen.
The green truck, right?
And was missing for a while.
Mom made a phone call on that one. I do
Okay.
know. She
And
said,
then-
"I know you have it, and you better
and-
get it back."
But then it was either payback for that or that was payback for this. Kyle had taken the drive shaft out of a guy's rollback
yeah.
and had it.
Yeah.
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 So
Do you remember didn't Kyle have a red S10 or a Sonoma?
yeah, S10.
Was it me and you when it was sitting down here at the store?
I don't remember this.
It was sitting down here at the store, and we were out one night, and we pull in, there's Kyle's truck sitting there. And I guess he had left it and rode with somebody, maybe to Litchfield or something. Well, we just reached in and turned the headlights on and left. That truck sit there for weeks. I guess he come back and the battery was there. It didn't sit there for weeks. Just sit there. And
So-
I think the people who owned the store last end up maybe pushing it around behind because it sit around back or something for a little while. Or maybe we pushed it around back and that's where it was. But anyhow, yeah, it'd sit there forever.
Yeah.
You wasn't gonna get him excited
He
about it.
don't get in a hurry about nothing.
I was going to say,
mean,
I
really,
don't know
he
that
don't.
I've ever
He
seen
doesn't-
Kyle excited about
he's
anything.
he's not really an excitable guy. Really calm. I mean, you were talking about those storms. He's the guy that maybe a tornado's getting ready to pass through, and he's sitting on the front porch.
That is that one sitting right over
And
there.
he's just watching it come, and he's not an excitable guy. He's just and Knox is about the same way. You're not gonna get either one of them in a hurry for nothing. My mom tells me that her and Kyle were farming with Dad. She said, that's all we had. He had me and Kyle to keep things running, and said that Dad was in a hurry. Come on, let's go. Come on. And so Mom's like, okay, come on, Kyle, let's go. He said, he'll be there when I get down there. I don't know, he'll be there.
Yeah.
And so then Dad would yell back, come on. And Mom, Kyle, come on. He's going to be mad. He'll be there when we get there. I don't know why you're running. And, so they get down there and Dad is mad. He's mad that Kyle's
Took
taking
so
so long, and Kyle ain't a bit Well, he said, I'm here now. What do you need? You know, it took his time, took a little stroll. But I guess he's always been that way.
Yeah, he is definitely probably one of the most laid back people
Laid back.
that I know, as far as just it takes a lot to get him tore up, I think.
It does. It does.
Yeah, I mean, and he loves to tear people up, but you know, he don't ever get torn up. You know,
that's the best pranksters, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
I mean, like every year on April Fool's Day, he would call me. I mean, I'm old enough to have my own phone. He'd call me and he'd tell me something horrible, you know. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, you know. And they'd be like, oh, I'm just kidding. You know, I'm just joking. And so then one year, like, I waited all day. And I waited and I waited and he never called me. And so I call him. And I'm like, what have you been doing today? And he's like, oh, work, did this. I said, I waited all day. He said, best prank of all.
You've been worried.
I'd waited all day for something bad, you know. And he's like, that was the best prank of all, to just sit and make you worry and wait for when it was coming.
So is he a fun uncle for your little boy?
Yeah. So I hate to tell you both, but Brooks calls this Uncle Kyle's radio show. So
we're good with that.
Yeah, we're
yeah.
okay with
I hate to tell y'all, but he'll say, "Are we listening to Uncle Kyle on the radio?" You know, because he don't know y'all. You know,
Right,
he thinks this is Uncle Kyle's radio show. But yeah, he's pretty fun. And Brooks, he called me one day and he said, "I got a new calf down here. Will you bring Brooks to see it?" And I'm like, yeah, I will. I'll bring him. He's like, I think he'd really like to see it. So we go down to this barn down here by the rental house that Mom and Kyle got, and it's muddy. It's so muddy that like Brooks had boots on, but he can put socks up over his boots because it's just so muddy. And we go down there, and Brooks is terrified because he's never been around a cow or anything. And Kyle's like, come over here, come here. And Mama's not gonna hurt you, and this baby ain't gonna hurt you. And so Brooks goes over there, and the little calf starts to pee. And Brooks thinks that's hilarious. Mm-hmm. And so they name the calf Pee-Pee. So Pee-Pee the calf, you know, and then Brooks is like, okay, well, I'm ready to see the cat now. And we're like, what cat? And apparently the whole time Brooks thought I was saying cat, not calf. and he was really upset by that. So Kyle's like, no, we're here to see a calf. And he's like, I don't want to see a calf. I wanted to see the cat. And so he picks on him for that, you know, and he'll tell him Pee-Pee's been asking about you. And, you know, and.
How long ago was that, Ben?
That was a couple years, maybe a year and a half ago. I don't know. I can't remember. But he'll even, you know, we'll drive by here and Brooks will say, you think Pee-Pee's out there? And I'm like, oh, yeah, Pee-Pee's thinking about you, I bet.
So I had a calf that the mother wouldn't take it, and so we raised it on the bottle. And my kids are, I have 13, mine are 14, 18, and 20. And Lindsay's are 13 and 17, so. But when mine were little, they raised this calf, you know, off the bottle. And they name it Valentine. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, that was the calf's name. And so Valentine, I mean, we ended up, I don't really remember what happened to it, but a couple years ago, my daughter says, whatever happened to Valentine? I said, oh, you ate her.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot believe you fed that calf to me.
Yeah.
Which I don't even remember what we did with her, but she thought I was horrible for feeding
Right,
for
yeah. I
that.
had a calf named Annabelle. Don't know if you've seen Annabelle's Wish, the heartfelt Christmas movie. No, it's good stuff. You
Christmas movies to me are Die Hard, so.
Whatever. So, Kyle takes me out. I'm probably Brooks's age, maybe a little older, and he's like, look at this calf. I'm like, oh, that's Annabelle, and oh, it's precious, you know. Well, he sells Annabelle, you know, so Annabelle, every time I'd be like, where is Annabelle? Oh, here she is. So Annabelle was brown and black and a boy sometimes, and a girl, you know. Mm-hmm. And so finally I get older, you know, and I'm like, where's Annabelle? Oh, we moved her down to the Bottoms, you know. Oh, you know, and then finally he's like, you know, I got rid of Annabelle a long time ago. She's probably dead by now, you know. And I'm like, all right. Okay. My beloved Annabelle.
Yeah. Well, you're our first female guest too.
I thought about that today.
Yeah.
Honorary,
yeah.
You know, first female.
Yeah. We have a list of people that we're going to try to get on.
Uh-huh.
And
we got a lot of people though. We want all three of us to be here.
Right.
So
we
didn't. There was a few we didn't want to get with Kyle missing, but we thought this would.
Glad I could be here. Last choice.
Really good.
glad I
weren't
could-
last, but
You
you're next to
Right.
last.
Hey,
you
that's my
also-
whole life. It's all right.
Yeah,
so.
you also feel the well, start to say the minority gap too, because you're Hispanic too, right?
Right,
So,
yes.
yeah.
Representing the minorities.
Yeah. So,
All right.
but we've got a list of people, and some people, there is a lady we're trying to get on here, and we would love to have her on here, but she's like, I just don't know if I can tell stories and this and that. I'm like, it's just conversation.
It's
right?
just conversation.
It's
right.
just once you get things flowing, it just goes.
Well,
you know.
I was a little nervous. Y'all probably haven't noticed, but Kyle's kind of the talker of the family. You probably never picked up on that, but
Yeah, well, you're doing pretty good.
he, he kind of carries the weight. I just wave behind. Hey, how are y'all? Things are going well. I do have a few mental notes I made. Number one, I have been lit on fire multiple times. My jeans. So when y'all told that story, they're like, who would do that? Yeah, I knew. I said, that's Kyle. Because I've been
catch your ravelings. And
yeah, I was at the station one time watching TV, minding my own business, and he's looking at me really weird. And I look at him like, what are you looking at? And then I felt it, and he had set my leg on fire. So then he put me out. He would always put me out every time he would set me on fire.
Well, safety first.
That's a good brother.
Right. He took care of me. Follow up, they were talking about your dad, Jimmy, and how Kyle claims, that they're just besties. No, you don't live a life that I've lived and not have Jimmy in your corner, I had a dog named Tigger. Sweet little Tigger. He was a rat terrier. And he got out and we come home, and Tigger has been hit in our driveway.
In the driveway.
In the driveway.
Not in the road, in the driveway.
Nope, he's in the driveway, and Kyle was somewhere, and so Mom calls Jimmy, and Jimmy actually buries my dog. So I will love Jimmy forever, for burying my dog and all the ice cream he gave me.
He
and
liked
so
to tell about the ice cream.
yeah, so Kyle comes home, and he feels real sorry for me that my dog has died, and so he made me a sympathy card, and it's. And I mean, I'm like probably so small I can't even read it. Like he has to read it to me, and it says, "I'm sorry your dog is dead." And then you open it, and he had drawn a picture of my dog dead with an arrow that said guts. And so I would always be like, "Did you hit my dog?" And he would say, "No, I didn't hit your dog. No." And so last year, I'm 29 years old. Last year, in conversation, he's like, "Well, when I ran over Kayla's dog," and I'm like, oh, "I knew it. I've known you did it. You hit my dog." And he's like, "Yeah, I hit your dog. Obviously, it was dead in the driveway. Like, who would have hit it, But he did not tell me for 20 years.
Yeah.
But he did give me a sympathy card, and he always says, that was the nice part.
Yeah.
I felt sorry for you. I made you a card.
So my wife, cats aren't safe around our house.
Oh.
I think she's got 2 that she's disposed of. One in the driveway, and one. I mean, she's talented at this. One
Magnet.
she hauled a quarter mile down the road and then ran over it down there.
Oh no.
I mean, there is a lot of skill in that to
Yeah.
dispose of it first and then run over it. But
Wow.
we've got kittens now, and I tell them all the time, hey.
Count your days.
Yeah, y'all are lucky. Stay away from that
You're gonna-
Camry. She drives it. She doesn't want it for you. So. But the funny part is, my dog, I've got a German Shepherd, and when I pull in, she'll get out of the way or she's going to run over.
Right.
I'm not going to stop for you.
Yeah.
And so when Lindsay pulls in, she's like, watch her, Reba. Watch her. Yeah. I'm like, you'll run right over a cat.
Yeah.
Don't think twice about it. But
Me and Kyle were actually talking through some of these things. I was talking to Mom actually about some of the things Kyle had done to me. And my mom's like, "Well, I didn't know your childhood was so terrible."
she didn't know you were still carrying
And
weight.
I'm like, you don't just live through Vietnam and forget. I mean, it's not something you just forget about one day.
Yeah.
But she took that very personally, so I'm probably in a little bit of trouble by the time I get, this gets out here.
It'd be worth it.
So,
Sometimes you just have to kind of.
And she's like, "He didn't do that. He didn't do that." I called him. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want you to tell.
Well, it's on the record now.
Yeah, I know.
It's on the record now.
Yeah, so she felt bad that my childhood was so bad, and I'm like, "What'd you do to stop it?" What'd you do? Where were you at, Mom?
That's funny.
Oh,
Well, back to something you said earlier. You said you had worked at South Edmondson with Ray Durbin. You know,
Yes.
we got to interview Ray.
Yes.
And Ray, and you know, all the veterans. We had Colin on here too.
Yes.
But I mean, they've got some interesting stories. to tell.
Absolutely.
And you know, for what Ray's been through with you know, growing up with a large family here in Sunfish, and they basically what they grew, they ate type stuff, and then going to Vietnam. And I mean, Ray, I'm glad to see Ray has found something he's passionate about.
He's
helping the
incredible.
kids. And he was telling us about that.
He did. He worked in my room, and he would work with the kids one-on-one with spelling words and sight words.
Right.
And he would bring stickers. And if you get them, you get your sticker, you
and
know.
it's strictly volunteer, right?
It was all volunteer, and he came 4 days a week, usually, sometimes 5, and he would work with my kids, and they loved him. I mean, they loved him. We loved when Mr. Durbin came.
Yeah.
You know, and just the sweetest demeanor and so good to him, and the patience, you know, and he knew how to talk to every single one of them to tell them, like, you got this. You can do this, even if they were struggling. But I think he's one of the best things
Oh, I agree.
since sliced white bread. But
Yeah.
I think he is one of the best things that happened to South. He's so good to those kids.
Yeah, he was great growing up around here, and I mean he's same demeanor all the time. Right?
He came.
He's
Yeah, he
always
came to my
warm
wedding, and he danced with me at my wedding.
Really?
And yes, he did. And we have a photo together of us dancing at my wedding. So
That's good. That's good.
I think he's great.
Yeah, yeah. He's been great to be around growing up. He's
I
a good
believe
role
that.
model for people, and you know he's making a difference over there.
I think so too.
There are a lot of kids that will remember him, you know, all through life.
We would make
because
him birthday cards, and we made him a birthday crown one year. And, you know, I mean, my kids just thought the world of him.
Yeah, I would see him on Facebook a lot.
Yeah.
Over there doing that, and I guess he's still doing it, right?
Yes, he
You
is.
know?
Yeah, I left. This has been my first year at Lawler this past year. But he came to see me on my birthday at Lawler. He came to see me and meet my new kids, and I tried really hard to bring him with me.
Right.
I'm like, I'll pay you. I will pay you if you will come. And he's like, I can't leave my kids,
Yeah.
you know, and I understood. But
Yeah, he's definitely dedicated. It's a shame there's not more, and maybe there is, but I mean it's a shame there's not more Rays out there to get in the classroom and
I think he's the
to
best.
help out. So.
Miss Nelda, she helps a lot at the school as well. His friend that he
Right,
hangs out with, Miss Nelda. She came to my wedding also.
Really?
So, yep.
I met her for the first time. It's been about a year and a half ago. I
Very
guess.
sweet. So
Right.
both of them are great. You know, great things for South Edmondson.
Yep, that's good.
Well,
You got anything else?
I do want to say we talked a little bit about your dad on here, but your dad was a big part of my life growing up, and
He was a big part of this community.
he was
Oh
a
my
big.
God, there's a mouse.
Where at?
It's over there.
Really?
Yes, I swear to God.
Are you lying?
Oh my God.
I thought it was crawling up your leg.
Yeah, it's over there. It don't have to crawl up my leg. This is the proof.
Where'd it go?
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate you.
That's Kyle right there.
He probably put it in here. It was probably a setup. Okay, well, you got to set a trap for that, but I got to put my legs up here now.
All right.
Whew,
So
okay.
there's a mouse in the she shed. You know, he planned that. He made me eat mayonnaise for Kevin Alexander over here. I mean, I straight shot mayonnaise, and so he said, "Watch this, we're gonna get a mouse in here and turn it loose." I hear she's scared of mice.
Woo!
I
Yeah.
didn't know she was scared of mice, but you know that couldn't work out any better. That may gain us some views, but
I'm
no.
4 months pregnant and climbed the couch. If that tells you how I am in life, I'm sweating through my clothes now.
But no, what I was saying, your dad, he was a big part of, like you said, the community, but a big part of my life. I mean,
yeah.
he spent a lot of time in the shop. I spent a lot of time down there at that garage, and I can remember the last time I seen your dad.
Yeah.
I was raking hay for Lonzo Vincent in South Kentucky, and him and Dad brought me lunch.
Yeah.
I remember you worked for Lonzo a lot there.
Yeah,
Couple
and
summers.
and Dad raked while I sat there on the tailgate with Gary and ate dinner.
I mean, Kyle and I both, I mean, we like to laugh and cut up and, you know, but on a serious note, it's been really good to listen to these because I've heard so many things about my dad I didn't know, you know, because I don't have any actual memories myself because I was 2 and, I heard his voice for the first time on a Christmas home movie. That's when I heard
Really?
his voice for the first time.
Oh, I can still remember what he sounds like.
And so, like, even hearing it didn't occur to me that's my dad because I never heard it, you know. So just hearing some of these things, it's made me feel, more connected to a piece that I didn't have. So, I mean, I really appreciate it, and
We've had a lot of fun.
We have had
We've had a lot of laughs in here, and I mean, there's been some emotion in here,
Right,
And, I
yeah.
mean, it's been a lot of fun. My favorite my favorite memory of Gary, and I can't remember if Kyle touched on this or not, but the Bear Creek flooded real bad one.
yes.
And it flooded across down here at 70, and then it flooded here, and it flooded basically all the way up to Litchfield. And my mom, and I don't remember if it was your mom or I know Martha was there, but they were all trapped on the other side of Bear Creek.
Right.
Trying to get home. And your dad took an old Farmall tractor down there.
Super M.
Yeah. And drove, of course, it's got almost spoke wheels, right? I mean, it's got a center, but there's a lot of flow through there. And he drove that old tractor across that bridge with water, I mean, probably 3 foot deep, flowing. I mean, it was moving.
Mom says there's a picture of that somewhere.
Well, I would like to see that.
She was looking for it, but
he drove across that and got my mom and my grandmother and maybe your mother. I don't remember who all. He may have done it for a bunch of people that day. I don't remember. We were all small, but I remember driving down there and standing in the seat of the truck and seeing Gary come across that.
Yeah.
On that old Farmall tractor.
With
these ladies and people standing up on the back of it.
You know that tractor. That's the tractor the silo fell on up at Moeller.
I didn't know that.
Tom bought it from Gary, he bought it from Kyle, I guess, or Maxine. But the silo fell on it, and then the guy that I have sold some of the Farmall parts for in the last little bit was telling me the other day that basically he had rebuilt that tractor, and that was one of them that I sold over out of that building. I had no idea.
Really? Huh.
Wow.
It's
Well,
staying
you've got
around.
his blue truck here, and
Yeah.
I had driven Brooks over there, my son Brooks, and we read that book, Little Blue Truck. Horn went beep, engine purred, front.
Must have been after my time.
Yeah, and I had said, my dad had a little blue truck, and I had taken him over there to let him look at it, and so now you've got it out here out front, and.
When we were kids, and I don't know if it's still on it or not. I don't know. They had
bug shield.
A red bug shield.
It's laying in the back, but I think all the lettering's gone off of it. It's busted up.
It's they used to put those old straight plastic bug shields on the front, and it was red. And I don't know, and it said Long Acres Farms across the front.
Yeah.
And then I was putting the corner said hog truck.
Oh yeah, it did. I forgot about that.
Yeah, because they was hauling hogs with it at the time all the
But
time.
we would ride to B Spring with him in that truck, and he would go all the way down Bear Creek Hill and all the way back to the top and never downshift that truck. And when we get to the top, it would just barely be chugging the top.
Do you remember the maroon colored diesel Ford truck he had?
Yep.
He had the white one, and he had that maroon. And that truck was the roughest riding truck I have ever rode in my life. And I can remember me and him and Dad going to the Mac dealer to get parts. And we stopped somewhere and got breakfast. And Dad spilled more coffee than he drank.
Because it was so rough.
Because it was so rough. And he told Gary, he said, this thing rides rough. You can't even drink coffee. And I think that's the reason the green truck ended up, because I think your mom went and bought the green truck.
I think she did. She
because
just went and bought it.
the maroon truck was just beating Gary to death.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, he'd come in and couldn't hardly walk because he'd had all those problems, and he was driving that truck everywhere, and it was just beating him to death. And so she'd bought that half-ton truck for him to drive around.
Yeah, he had a truck one time. I don't remember which truck it was, but the seat latch was broke in it, and it was a manual. And you would be with him, and whenever he would take off, you would slide all the way back. And when he would push the clutch in, you would slide back forward. And then we'd take off again. And he just thought it was the funniest thing ever to get people in there. I don't remember which truck it was, and he may have fixed it, but I remember riding with him somewhere, and me and Cooter would ride.
It
with
may
him.
have been that little Toyota. You remember the little Toyota he had? They run parts in all the time.
Little blue one,
blue and white, I think, wasn't it?
It almost had racing stripes on it or something, didn't it?
Yeah.
Mom had a brother, and he didn't. His I don't know if it was his right side of his body didn't move just right or whatever, but he had a hard time, and my dad apparently loved to just pester him, and he'd say, Junior, you want to go with me to get these parts? I'll stop and get you a hamburger. Apparently my dad didn't believe in going into restaurants. It's a waste of time. We ain't doing that.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a waste of time.
Waste of time. We ain't got time for that. And so he'd get him to go, and he'd look in the mirror, because he'd always put him in the back, whatever they were in, and he'd look in the mirror, and about the time that he would be able to get his food up to his mouth, my dad would throw on the brakes, and he would smash his food into his face. And then he'd be like, oh, dog ran out in front of me. Sorry.
Well.
Somebody stopped short. And my mom says that by the time they get back, her brother had wore that cheeseburger, like just ketchup and onions just falling off his face. And she'd be like, Gary, he can't move like you. And he'd be like, oh, he's all right, and he'd take this same brother, hey, go check the cows with me. And then he'd make him get out and do all the gates.
And then push him into
it. So
catch him in front of the truck, push him into the gate.
He'd tell him passenger has to do all the gates. And so, his leg he was a little bit, not very mobile. Yeah. And he'd get out and he'd hobble to get that, passengers got to do all the gates. So you got to close it back, and I mean, that's just Kyle made over. I mean, to act like that,
there's no boundaries. Well, I will admit, coming down here a couple hours ago, my wife over there, who's probably not wanting me to tell this, I kept saying, you got something in the edge of your nose. You got something in the edge of your nose.
Don't do this to her.
And so finally, when she looks in the mirror, and so I'm like, no, you think you need to just touch the end of it. So when she reaches up to touch it, I hit the brakes.
Hit the brakes,
she tried to touch her brain. So, I mean, there's still good humor in there.
Why does he do stuff like that
That's
to you?
horrible.
She's trying to be quiet over there.
Yeah, no. I mean, you just...
Did you hear me tell on a couple episodes ago, I don't remember who we had on, about your dad catching us out in the middle of the night?
Yes.
I mean, he's terrified of us. Because he was just... It was that crossing down there on the Sunfish Creek. He was standing against a tree. I mean, nobody knew we were out. And, I don't know that he ever said anything to anybody about that. But
He probably did.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon, he knows this, and I called Kyle the other day because my mom was going to take my son for the day. I had a doctor's appointment, and then she needed to pick up Knox in honor. And so she called me, and she's like, I have a car seat. I can't take him to pick up Knox in honor. And so Brooks says, what's wrong? And I'm like, oh, Memo loves Knox in honor more than she loves you.
Oh.
And apparently...
That's the Gary coming out there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, like, split second, he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, oh, Memo loves them more. Sorry. And I just continue on with my life. Well, she ends up taking him. We give her my car seat. And he says, Memo, why do you love Knox in honor more than you love me? And she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, that's what my mama said. My mama said that you love Knox in honor more. And she called me, and she got all over me. She was so mad. And she said, you get more like Kyle White every day that you live and breathe. And me and Kyle could not decide if that was a compliment or we should be offended.
Just tell her it's the Gary.
Yeah. I mean, hey, what more could you want?
It's just the genes.
We've been told we're a little bit insufferable when we're together.
Really?
Yeah.
I
a lady in his office, she's like, you are so annoying. You are the worst when you're together. Because it's just who can outdo, So family Christmas is always really fun. Poor mom.
I stopped over there to the office one time, and there was an old roll-around chair sitting there, and it looked like somebody had died in it.
Yeah, right.
And I said, Kyle, what's wrong with that chair? He said,
nothing wrong with that chair.
Yeah, nothing. I said, Kyle, you need to get rid of that chair.
Still rolls. Why would you get rid of it?
Why would I get rid of it?
Right.
I said, Kyle, those ladies need a new chair. He said, times are rough at the state. I don't know if you know. I said, buy them a chair. They're $40 chairs. Nope. And so I go over there like 2 years later, and it's still there.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, does it roll? Can you sit in it?
Well,
then there ain't nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I mean, he is the person that will treat that over there like it's his,
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, like that station at the couch. Lord have mercy, you'd fall through it to the floor.
Yeah, you'd sit down and couldn't get up.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
It was a trap.
Roll around and get on my knees and stand up.
Yeah, me and him were fighting in a recliner over at the station, and we broke it down, I think he was probably doing something to me, and we were fighting and it broke it, and that thing stayed till, I mean, I think the end. You know, that half, you couldn't even sit in it because you'd fall to the side. And, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that chair.
That's probably that same recliner. I think they duct taped one of them boys that worked over to that recliner. Like, went around and around and around. Like, he wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
They were doing the TV stunts over there before the TV, you know, like the Nitro Circus. And
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
like that before it was a thing.
Yeah, we had that before it was cool.
He told me one time, he's like, well, hey, come in here. I need to show you something. And, like, don't ever do that. Just don't, because
Yeah.
it's not going to end well for you. And Kyle's probably like 5'8", I would guess. Well, I'm 5'9", so I'm bigger than him. But here I come, you know, and he turned me upside down and tried to stick my head in the station toilet. And I am screaming to the top of my lungs, and I have my hands on the seat, and I mean, with all the strength I have in me. And I'm kicking and I'm fighting.
Well, that ought to be worth something right there, just touching the seat of that.
Oh, I know,
station
right?
toilet.
And
Yeah.
so then he flips me up and he said, yeah, why don't you go cry about it to Mom? I mean, like, that gross, nasty toilet. Yeah, why don't you go cry about it?
Well, we've been on him for the last hour or so, but
We're going to get a payback. You
Yeah,
know
we're
that.
gonna pay
All
back.
of
No,
us.
he was, I mean,
I tell my kids, I tell them, and I've told them since they're little, the people that you're running around with right now, they're going to be with you your whole life.
Right.
Like Brandon and Kyle, we grew up together. I don't even remember not knowing either one of you all.
Right.
And so, Kyle and Brandon both, and a couple other around here, they're on my list with Lindsay. If I die, that's who I want packing my butt to the grave.
Yeah,
that's the friends you have. So
I've given him a hard time, but he's earned it, really. But he's a good brother.
Yeah.
And
Well, we'll edit this.
I don't
part out. We
think.
wanna
I don't
give
think
him
good. I
credit.
think great.
he is
Yeah.
really, he taught me how to drive. That's why I drive like I do. And, he gave me my first car. And, he's a good brother, and he called me. He said, you got to learn how to parallel park, because I'd been putting it off. And he had the old green truck, and he had another old truck, the old gray one, green one and gray one. He said, park it in between this and don't hit them, because they were
Yeah, they were
pristine.
Yeah.
Pristine condition.
Yeah.
Taught me how to parallel park. He took me down here to Moon Road. I hadn't been driving for a day. He's like, you can make it through this. You can drive anywhere, And, I've been one day driving. Got a permit yesterday. And, you make it through here and make it out Cedar Grove Church Road, then you can drive anywhere. But, he's a...
Well, looking back, that's pretty.
that's
There's
pretty
some
true.
truth to that, right? Yeah.
I tell him all the time, I'm like, listen, I'm as tough as I am because you put me through the ringer. I am. So, I can fuss at him and tell him all this stuff, but...
So if you ever brought a boyfriend home or anything like that, was Kyle nice to him?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
He didn't harass him? Or...
No, not really. No. He would sometimes have an opinion, but he mostly gave it to me. He'd call me with that opinion.
Yeah.
And, but he wasn't really hard on. But Kyle's always kind of lived a dual role, whether it be good or whether it be bad, where it was almost like a dad and a brother,
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, I didn't really know sometimes, like, how to, like, is this more like my dad moment or is this more like my brother, but,
My daughter and stepdaughter,
they've
they've been bringing boys home and stuff, and I love to harass.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, Lindsay gets on to me. She's like, you need to be nice to them. I'm like, no, nobody's ever nice to me.
Thank you for coming. We
Yeah.
greatly appreciate you coming
Yeah.
and doing this.
Yeah, thanks for dishing on Kyle and telling us some dirt. And,
Roast on Kyle while he's not here. So
yeah, can't defend himself.
he may come up and break in and set the equipment up and have one for all of us for a payback.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
So-
late night over here.
Yeah, yeah. I'll see the lights on over here and wonder what's going on. It's Kyle
Have
broke
notes.
in over here. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming.
All
Thanks
right.
for being
Thank
our
y'all
first
for
female
having me.
guest, and-
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks everybody for listening.
See y'all.